But that's what I gotta agree with what Rockefeller did. Rockefeller, when they was using the major, but still owning their masters.
That's the difference. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm into. I'm into that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not against the majors. You just gotta know the steps.
Right.
You gotta know what's going on. You gotta know what's actually happening with your shit. And I fell victim to that multiple times. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
I know they pay for everything. Right. I get to pay it back. I'm making millions. I don't give a shit.
It's the worst loan ever.
Yeah, you don't give a shit when it's working.
The worst loan of all time.
When you working,
when it's happening.
When it's on the downside.
Oh my God.
It's a problem.
When you can't pay it back.
And if you recoup, then you're good. If you don't recoup, this is the worst loan ever.
But the difference between making fast food music and gourmet music is you can pay that back with gourmet music. Right. I can get $3 million from Universal right now and pay it back in 2 years.
Let's make some noise for that, goddamn.
Without releasing music.
Right.
I'm still getting checks from 15 years ago.
Shit.
Right. That's catalog.
But that's what I'm saying. But it's like
catalog money, you said?
Catalog.
Oh, catalog. Okay.
Catalog. But when you make fast food music and your shit goes away in 2 months, you can't get that advance back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're like, this song is hot as fuck. Here's $2 million. You made 90,000 off of it. We're gonna need the rest of that very soon.
And you was on Atlantic, right?
First of all, I was on Jive.
Yeah.
Jive.
I was on Jive.
Barry Weiss? Who's?
Barry Weiss.
Okay.
So I was on Jive, and then Jive caved and turned into RCA, and they didn't tell anybody.
Oh yeah, they did that to me.
They didn't say shit.
Oh, welcome to the game. Welcome to the game. I'm glad I was the only one.
So the crazy thing was, the worst thing about that venture and that joint venture was RCA acquired 4 labels. They got
Which was?
They got all I know is they got Jive.
Okay.
But I think they got some of Epic, they got some of Def Jam, they got like a lot of shit. Okay. So RCA acquired 4 labels worth of artists, but they only still had 1 label worth of employees.
Right.
Wow.
So if you had 10 records to take to radio, if you got a Chris Brown joint placed, you did your job for the day.
Right.
They didn't give a fuck what didn't get placed.
Right.
They go back to fucking Peter and was like, I did my job today. We got Chris Brown on the radio. Right. They was like, what about the other 9? They wasn't fucking with him. Okay, but you got 1, right? Cool. There it is.
You
so
reached your quota.
RCA really stopped giving a fuck about their artists that wasn't performing as well as the other artists. And I literally called Peter one day. Peter's the president of RCA. And I was like, hey, I understand what's going on. Please drop me. Let me go. And he, right out of his mouth on the phone, said, you think I'm gonna let somebody else get T-Pain? We're not even having this conversation. Boom, hung up on me.
I would have had that conversation.
Yeah.
That sounds official. You can't drop yourself, G.
I'm like, bro, please. No. I know you're not doing anything for me. I'm not bringing you any revenue, because he, like, out of his mouth, he's like, urban music doesn't make us any money.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm doing urban music. I would gladly not be a hindrance anymore. Just let me go. And he was like, you think I'm gonna let somebody else have T-Pain?
Did he just say hindrance?
Yep.
Great word. Great word.
3 syllables.
T-Pain's out here exposing, giving y'all the sauce. There were 4 labels that were bought. I'm going to break down everything, but I want to go ahead and give y'all these 4 off top. So they already had RCA Music Group. They got Arista Records. They got Jive Records. They got LaFace Records, which is all under Zomba Music Group. And they got about 10, 15 other labels that were up under that too. I'm going to talk about who did this, why they did this, why this happens in the music business often, and what was the collateral damage that T-Pain was alluding to, which caused him to not be able to even get dropped from a label he didn't want to be at anymore. Can you imagine trying to quit your job and they tell you, nah, nigga, you need to come back in tomorrow? Like, no, I'm done. I don't want to be here. So that's exactly what they're doing with T-Pain. But before I get into the details of all that, you need to hit like, you need to hit share, you need to comment, follow, subscribe, and make sure you watch the entire video.
My ducks, my swans, welcome to the pond.
My name is Dorian from Group82University.com, and right here we got the great T-Pain talking about bad record labels. So I'm gonna just break down exactly what he was talking about. So there's a media company in Germany called BMG, and just to give context without going into detail about it, last year, well, not last year because it was 2020, I'm gonna just say that. In 2019, BMG did $18 billion in revenue. That's with a B. BMG owned Jive and RCA Records back in the early 2000s. Jive was one of those labels in the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s that always had black music. And some of the artists that we listened to or that you might have heard of that were on Jive are Houdini, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Too Short, Schoolie D, E40, UGK, Aaliyah, and then even Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and Britney Spears. So they had a lot of talent and people that was selling a lot of records under Jive, which made them a very valuable and lucrative purchase for a company like BMG, who's a media conglomerate. This is the timeline of events from what T-Pain was talking about, so you can actually get all the context and detail to understand the situation. In 2004, BMG decided that they wanted to complete a joint venture, like T-Pain alluded to, with Sony to make Sony BMG Music Entertainment. Now, for any of y'all to understand the music business, you know that there's 3 major record labels that do other things as well. So you got Universal, which has Universal Pictures, Universal Studios, Universal everything. You have Warner Media Group, which used to own Warner Music Group and no longer does, but started off with Warner Brothers. And then you have Sony, who owns Sony PlayStation, but they also have Sony Music. So anytime you can get a joint venture with one of those big record labels, you are actually about to start doing some heavy hit, and that's exactly what BMG did with that. But once they did the 50-50 joint venture with Sony, everyone that was on their label was no longer just under BMG, now they're under Sony. Because of the consolidation, that means jobs got cut. Over 2,000 people lost their jobs, and BMG said that saved them about $350 million annually. This is not the first music company to do this, not the first record label to do this. Like I told you earlier, this happens often, so pay attention when it does, and think about all the collateral damage of A&Rs and managers and marketing reps and radio promo people who now are out of a job because y'all want to save $350 million. In 2007, BMG held 1 million music copyrights through their own private publishing group. That didn't get sold in the original Sony 50-50 joint venture. So because of that, that was an extremely valuable asset. They had the copyrights and the publishing for pretty much every artist that was on their label. And they sold that to Universal for $1.63 billion. So now you got artists who are technically signed to Sony, but their publishing is owned by Universal. You gonna keep going. On August 5th, 2008, during the recession, I might add, Sony bought the remaining 50% from BMG for $1.2 billion. So now BMG is completely out of the picture, and anybody who was signed to BMG, they're now under Sony. So I want you to imagine it like this. Imagine you a high-level basketball player. You're getting recruited by Duke and Kentucky and North Carolina and Kansas and all these big-time schools, and you commit to Kansas. You're going to go play for Coach Bill Self in Lawrence, Kansas. And then you get there, and then UCLA decides to buy Kansas. So now you're going to play for Mick Cronin and UCLA. I didn't sign up to play for Mick Cronin. I signed up to play for Bill Self. Well, you ain't got no choice now. And that's exactly what happened with the artists here. They signed to BMG. They didn't sign to Sony. So all the staff that was at BMG, like those people I told you earlier, all those folks are gone. Now you got to learn all these new people. Inside of a record label, it comes down to subjective taste. So there might have been somebody at BMG who was really championing you as an artist, but the people at Sony might not rock with you like that. So therefore, they're going to keep you on the back burner, like T-Pain was giving the examples of getting people placed in promo for radio. Oh, you got Chris Brown placed today? Good. Who cares about everybody else, because we don't really like them to begin with. So a lot of people got caught up in this mix-up, as Nori said he did too. But this wasn't an immediate thing. They let BMG kind of be around for 3 years. Then in August 2011, Sony completely dissolved the BMG name, where now there was no more reference to BMG whatsoever. Everybody here is an artist under Sony. So what does any of this mean? That means that everyone owned T-Pain's music at one time. And this is what happens when you sign a record deal. You not just signing to one company. You actually sign to like 5 or 6. But when you really start peeling back the layers, they usually got their own label, or they might be under Def Jam, because everybody owns everything. One song is getting so many people paid, and that's what happens when you sign a record deal. You no longer own your music. You ain't nothing but a trading card to them. Is that what you want to be? Is that the type of pawn you want to be in this system? I don't want nothing to do with that. And this is what happens when you sign a record deal, which is why we always tell y'all, you got to know how to market your music yourself. T-Pain knew how to get his stuff out there himself because he kind of did it as an independent artist. I'm not saying the radio and the major labels and Jive didn't really push T-Pain, because they did. They made his career. But T-Pain already knew how to sing. He already knew how to rap. He already knew how to do all these things. He was already DIY. So when all this stuff started happening, he was able to remove himself and still have the career, still do shows, and still make songs to this day. Do it yourself is the only way that you have any sort of safety net or security here in the music business, which is why you gotta know how to market, which is why the class is called How to Market Your Music on Social Media. We got the class set up where it's originally $2,000, but you can get in it for $250 if you do PayPal Pay in 4. What you do is you pay your first payment of $250, and then you owe PayPal 3 more payments over the next 6 weeks. So every 2 weeks you're gonna owe them a payment. It allows you to get in the class for $250, which is a low barrier of entry on a $2,000 class, and you ain't gotta worry about being on a payment plan with us or with anybody else. You can do it directly through your PayPal account. So if you're on Instagram, you need to click that link. You need to go enroll in the payment plan for How to Market Your Music on Social Media at group82university.com. So that way you can get in the course right now for $250 starting off. You on YouTube, you can click that link in the box as well. T-Pain, continue giving us these gems. Continue telling us what's going on in the industry. If there's anything else y'all want me to break down that you see anybody else has said, write that in the comments right now. I'm out the pod. Y'all stay true.
Rotate, 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 rotate.
Group82university.com.